Good morning, I am Tracy Spencer with your newscast. This newscast is brought to you courtesy of BioLife Energy Systems. Come join the living. Call them at 800-875-5433. USA Credit Repair, the key to beautiful credit. You may call them at 800-786-1330. And Cruising with the Case Handler, a show on personal injury and immigration, weekdays 8:30 a.m., on Saturdays 7 p.m. and 12 noon on Sundays. Now for the news in details. The Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, is calling for Education Minister Favour Williams to set a timeline for the provision of full internet access to boost online learning. JTA President Jasper Gabriel said Mistress Williams' experience with the Technology Ministry will enable her to push for internet coverage to facilitate students doing classes online due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Gabriel said several children continue to be at a disadvantage due to the lack of broadband internet. He said an update is also needed in terms of the announcement in March that telecoms firm Digicel would expand internet services in about 100 rural communities. President of Jamaica's Senate, Tom Tavares Finson, has suggested that there is need for legislative review of the Office of the Political Ombudsman. Addressing the members of the upper house after they were sworn in on Tuesday, Mr. Tavares Finson called for attention to be paid to the office so it can better carry out its functions. There have been recurring concerns that the Office of the Political Ombudsman lacks teeth and increased calls for the powers of that office to be strengthened under law. Meanwhile, the Professor Trevor Monroe, Executive Director of the National Integrity Action, NIA, has shared bold expectations from the Andrew Holness administration, two of which he once achieved this month. Professor Monroe said this is based on the provisions of the National Consensus on Crime Memorandum of Understanding MOU, which was signed last month. The agreement, which was signed by the Prime Minister and the opposition leader, outlines the steps that must be taken for a sustainable reduction in crime and corruption and specific deadlines beginning this year. Professor Monroe said the Prime Minister agreed to deliver two things before the end of the third quarter, which ends this month. While Professor Monroe acknowledged that the month-end deadline is close and may not be achieved, he suggested that certainly the first part of October would expect that these two commitments, not pledges, but actually signed documents will be delivered as was anticipated. Meanwhile, Professor Monroe also shared expectations in relation to the standards he expects to be imposed on government ministers, particularly when two of those appointed, Darrell Vaz and J.C. Hutchison, had controversial situations during their previous tenure. The Barbados government has signaled its intention to recognize same-sex relationships. Governor General Dame Sandra Mason, who is addressing the opening of a new term of the Barbados Parliament, said the island has always been the vanguard of pioneering social justice and the protection of civil rights. Dame Sandra said the legal systems of modern societies recognizes many different forms of human relationships, and Barbados is now increasingly finding itself on international lists for having a poor human rights record. She said the Mia Mottley administration will do the right thing despite the likelihood of controversy. Meanwhile, Barbados also announced its intention to become a republic. It plans to remove Britain's Queen Elizabeth as head of state by November of next year. And that is it for the news. This newscast came to you courtesy of BioLife Energy Systems. Come join the living. Call them at 800-875-5433. USA Credit Repair, the key to beautiful credit. You may call them at 800-786-1330. And Cruising with the Case Handler, a show on personal injury and immigration, weekdays 8:30 a.m., on Saturdays 7 p.m. and 12 noon on Sundays. On behalf of the news and the production team, I am Tracy Spence. To have a good morning.